Good evening and welcome to this edition of the Hot Seat this Friday, the 21st day of February 2025. And with me, this is actually the first time I'm hosting this show in as many months. Especially this year. I don't even remember coming here in December because I've been very busy working hard with Museveni to run down this country.
And M23.
Exactly, M23, lower Museveni. But for Museveni, it's a hard job running down, helping him run down this country, dig potholes in the city, and make Uganda worthless. Anyhow, but my panel this evening is composed of very interesting gentlemen. First of all, we don't allow women on this show except Melina. So we have, from my clan, I have my grandson, Raymond Mujuni, Isaac Kayonde, Frank Mjimba, and Joseph Sabiti. And we're going to discuss, Besigye now Besigye has been transferred from the court martial to
civilian courts,
to the High Court. Besigye's people have been arguing that the courts in Uganda are controlled by Museveni. Museveni wanted Besigye tried by the army court martial. The Supreme Court ruled against Museveni. Museveni has accepted the ruling of the Supreme Court. So, is the Supreme Court independent if it rules against Museveni? The second thing, Besigye was on hunger strike. He wants to go to the High Court. And let me inform you guys, the government has airtight evidence of Besigye colluding to do two things. Seek to violently overthrow the government. The second thing, to murder Museveni. And I can play the audio. The audio we say talks of the helicopter. In English we say the is a definite article. You can say a helicopter, that's indefinite. It can be any helicopter, but we say the helicopter. What was the helicopter? It was the helicopter of the president. So this man was planning to kill the president in cold blood. The evidence is going to come in court. I believe the evidence. Anyone who says he has not been convicted, that's a matter of the court. You can commit a crime, we know you committed it even long before the court has convicted you. And even if the court acquitted you, it doesn't mean you didn't commit the crime. Maybe the prosecution was compromised or incompetent to argue the case. So I want to begin with you, Raymond Mujuni. Because why have Besigye and his people always avoided to discuss the issue at hand, which is the authenticity of those audios, and they're always discussing a hunger strike, court of appeal, court martial. They're discussing every single technicality except the substantive issue of what exactly was Besigye involved in and how grave is it.
I would be very hard pressed to speak on behalf of Besigye's people.
Read their minds for us. You have a PhD in the psychology of opposition politicians. We didn't educate you for nothing.
But I think that Besigye and Museveni are in an intractable conflict. It cannot be resolved either politically or legally, and I think it's one of those conflicts where one of them must outlive the other. That is I have a firm belief on that.
What do you mean it cannot be resolved politically? Besigye was trying to resolve it politically with an assassination.
Either way, one of them
in cold blood.
One of them has to outlive the other. I don't think that Museveni also sleeps thinking not that he doesn't want to take out Besigye. And the reason I say it's an intractable conflict is that both men have this banal obsession with the idea that to change Uganda and put it on the trajectory that they want it, they must have power. They must have and wield immense power. And the crisis...
So Besigye envies Museveni's power and he wants to grab it.
The crisis is that Uganda's power is fully present in the presidency at the moment. So unless you are the president of Uganda, you have very little power, very little legroom to make a series of changes. In that way, Besigye differs from people like Mugisha Muntu who think some of the changes can be achieved through actually talking to people, actually building structures. He differs from people like Augustine Ruzindana, Amanya Mushega, or Elia Kategaya, who were all Museveni's friends, departed, came to the FDC, and found the FDC as a place that they couldn't be in. So those radical positions, the intractable conflict now has boiled over time. It started as a peaceful contestation. It's become incredibly violent, and now you have violence on both sides of the coin. You have violence from the side of the state, which is led by Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, and violence on the side now of Besigye and the people that he mobilizes with. I am waiting, like many people, to hear the full flang of the evidence that they have. But
you have listened to the audios.
Yes, I've listened to the audios. But I also would like to say the state of Uganda is not very competent in trying treason. They have never convicted anyone except Moses Ali of treason. And Moses Ali was convicted by a court-martial. So that should tell you the capacity and scale of the prosecution. You need to produce evidence that is beyond reasonable doubt. And I often feel the state in Uganda is, first of all, lackluster to betray the methods within which they collect the information that they collect. Other times, contestations in Uganda start off as legal, then they become political, then they become familial, and next thing you know is the state will lose interest because they found a political settlement and solution. So I don't think that the state in any way is going to convict Besigye. Not now, at least not in the near future.
I want to come to Isaac because Raymond is making an important point. I don't think it's a question of incompetence. I think it's a choice whereby if you are violently contesting power from Museveni, if you look at it, Museveni historically has fought different enemies across different times and across different regions of Uganda, but in everywhere has fought a civil war. After securing a decisive military victory on the battlefield, he has invited the defeated, negotiated with them, integrated their fighters into the NRA, now UPDF, and their political leaders into the government. So that has been a strategy. Even with treason, Museveni always leaves a door open for political reconciliation so that treason does not take you to the logical end. So if they lose cases in court, it's not because they don't have evidence, but because they don't think that courts of law can resolve political disputes. Political disputes need to be resolved through negotiation. I want to hear your take.
Yeah, you see, for me, I think this is a question of a trust deficit with government. There's nothing government at this point presents and the people believe it. So I think for me they have to do what they have to do.
What do you mean by the people?
You see, okay,
as if people are univocal.
No, I mean, okay, you have to look at the urban sentiment. It influences a lot of things.
So you can say a significant number of middle class.
Yes, a significant number of people will not believe government, regardless of what they bring. The question is, you who is presenting this evidence, however overwhelming it is, how will it resonate with the population? Because that's what is important. For me, I think Besigye has been very consistent, and the message to the people is that, look, if you cannot believe government, at least let's believe what Besigye has presented before us. He has said elections in this country cannot change government. He has said he needs people to
rise up.
He has tried, he has failed, right? The third thing, he has been quoting endlessly I think Article 3 of the Constitution, where it gives powers to the population to defend the Constitution by all means. So that's a man speaking that I am trying other things other than those which are legal, so legal in the Constitution as it is. So for me, it's not strange that government has found him in something similar to treason. You have to also look at what surrounds Besigye. He's what's his name? The one who has got in DRC.
Sam
Mugumya in DRC and the case around that. You look at Kabaziguruka and that incident when he went to court, there was something to do with Mbuya and whatever. Then you look at these 30 people they found in Kenya, and then the whole PFF, people who had gone for a conference, no leader of that new party was there, but somehow these obscure members were there to train for something that is legal. So I feel like it's obvious that Besigye is mobilizing something beyond what meets the eye. But how you get the population to believe that is it? Because, first of all, you have to give it. The man has beaten the government over 29 times that he has been imprisoned and charges brought against him. So, to use this word, believability, if it exists, is very low.
I want to come to you, Frank, because you should tell me, you belong to the NRM camp. Because Isaac uses the word the people. I don't know where he did conduct the referendum or an opinion. But I'm inclined to believe that when he talks of the people, he means this Kampala echo chamber. It's very possible that many Ugandans actually. Like last night when I took Semuju on, the elites in Kampala were saying, why did you shout? Actually, the best that I'm not there to convince any of my enemies. My enemies, listen, I really don't give a damn what you think about what I say. You can go to Twitter, say whatever you wish. But the constituency I was speaking to is very happy. I have so far received about 87 accounts. People have been giving me cows and that. So there's a huge opinion there of people who wanted someone to put Semuju in his place.
Yeah, first of all, and
in your echo chamber, Mange, the Bahima there. Do they believe government?
First of all, for me personally, I believe government. Why not? But let me first attempt your question about the opposition and what they are saying and why they are not believing government. This is what I feel. First of all, Besigye has been tried so many times and he has won cases against government. It is not that maybe Besigye...
Okay, they are telling me to take an ad break. Let's take an ad break. We'll come and you make your point.
All right.
Welcome back to this edition of the Hotseat, featuring a panel of the most experienced journalists and panelists discussing major events of the week. We had Frank Mjimbe was telling, he was making his point.
Yes.
He was saying, you believe the government has a strong case?
Yes. Like I said, but I wanted to first submit about your question, the first question about the opposition and how they are replying. I was saying that Dr. Kizza Besigye has been tried a number of times in courts, and none of all those trials where he has been convicted. And I was saying it's not necessarily because that he could have been a free man. Maybe some of these cases were resolved politically because the government maybe wouldn't want to expose some of the witnesses or the way in which it operates. Secondly, these are people who are vying for political positions, and anything to do with controversy, that's how they are supposed to reply. In other words, to dance the tunes of the masses that actually elect them. Because Ugandans, as long as you bring up something and you are controversial, you are against government, you are abusing President Museveni, then these people will automatically elect you. But also the other thing, Andrew, is maybe the evidence that you could be having, that you have access to, you as an individual. I don't think that most of these opposition people actually have access to it, most of them, and I don't think...
assuming even if you gave it to them, whether they would believe it.
But that is something else. Maybe they also don't, like also the general public, maybe do not have access to the evidence that you have, and that is why you are speaking the way you are speaking, because you know something, and most of the people actually don't know anything about this evidence. But this is what I think. It is a case that is actually developing. Now we've been talking about court martial, but now Besigye has been finally transferred to the civilian courts, and let's watch how it plays out.
I want to come to you. You know, Adbreak, you're saying that the audios are not admissible in court. Explain that to me, and how. Who told you that?
No, let me start by saying that the Justice Abodo's first task on Monday should be to get a gag order for Andrew Mwenda, because the things he's saying do not help the prosecution's case.
Why?
So if I mean, Andrew, it might be only the four of us in this room who actually believe that yesterday in that shouting match you were speaking your mind. Majority of the urban elite believe you are a procured mouthpiece who is speaking to spin, to change the narrative, and that doesn't help the government's case. So if I were your friends in government, either I would kidnap you over the weekend or take you somewhere.
I don't even think that they believe I'm a paid handler of government, but I think that they would prefer to have me use my intellectual talents to defend their case. So if I can't, like a pretty girl has rejected you, you go and say her mouth smells or whatever. You badmouth someone simply because you have.
No, I actually thought your young clanmate would first of all call you to order for yesterday.
I have tried everything.
No, I thought you would call him out and say that yesterday you and the Honorable Semuju did very bad. That is the intellectual bad manners. And during the break you were talking about people who were offering you cows. those for the
For what he
and
did.
I have said that for one, I don't believe that the argument you were making yesterday is actually your conviction. I know you as someone. I know you as someone who believes.
From your belief.
I know you as someone who believes in due process. I know you as someone who believes in the rule of law. And Andrew, you were the last person calling us to order during the trial.
Let me ask you, do you think Barack Obama believes in due process? You've read a lot of his work.
I have very little regard for him, so I might.
Do you believe Bill Clinton believed in due process?
I have very little regard for him as well.
Do you believe any president of America believed in due process?
I have very little regard for America.
Tell me, which person do you think believes in due process?
No. I'm just making a case in regard.
I just want to ask you this question: Which person in the world can you say this leader, I know him, believed in due process? And I'll give you exceptions.
Andrew Mwenda.
Whether it is Mandela or whatever. So,
Andrew Mwenda.
yes, I believe in due process, but I give exceptions. Yesterday, I stated my view. Museveni, we should know, is a human being. Somebody comes and brings you hard evidence that a man is planning to kill you. I think, honestly, this thing gave me...
So the task you have... Yes.
I decided to respect... I feel high respect for Museveni because he has the presence of mind. For most people, you kidnap them from Kenya, they would have ordered them to be killed there without being brought back to Uganda. But Museveni had the presence of mind to say, no, abduct him from Kenya, bring him and subject him to a court process. Because they could have killed him in Kenya there, he would have died in Uganda, he would have disappeared from there, the man went to Kenya, never came back. Do you see? In other words, he was not even disappeared from the territory of Uganda. So that Museveni had the presence of mind to do that shows his humanity and his belief in due process. If it were you, somebody is planning to kill you, what would you have planned to do? If you plan to kill me, I'm likely to also retaliate by killing you.
You see,
Andrew, if you say I don't believe that, I am surprised. You plan to kill me. You plan to kill me.
Andrew, here's the point. Andrew, here is the point. Here's the point I am making. That time and again you've made arguments for proper procedures to be followed.
Yes.
I am not here to make a case for Besigye's innocence or guilt. I am here to make a case for due process. That you friends in NRM, the government that I work for, decided that there will be fidelity to the constitution. That even the one who has killed, including Jamil Mukuro, is subjected to due process. Yes. So now the Ugandans, a section of Ugandans, are asking why Andrew Mwenda is very much convinced that this evidence is solid, is credible, in a context of a government which has charged Dr. Besigye with rape before, has charged him with treason, has charged him with all sorts of offences, and he has walked away clean.
And I said this yesterday, I said it on TV Sabit, because I told them, government of Uganda has many times brought bogus cases against Besigye. But in 2005, I wanted to go and read my articles in Monitor at that time. Government charged Besigye with treason. I defended the government because I had sufficient evidence from military intelligence at the time, linking Besigye to treason. And my witness is Conrad Nkutu. He's a very close friend of Besigye, he's still alive. So you can ask what. So I went in my column, I wrote repeatedly that government had a case. I understood that the government was not willing to reveal its sources in the name of getting a conviction. But they had the evidence, they were not willing to expose their sources. Second, in this case, I can tell you, I have said it on NBS and last night I repeated it. When I got these audios, they were sent to me, the chief of military intelligence, because I had gone and had lunch, spent the whole day with Besigye at his house in early October. Then 2 weeks after me spending a day with Besigye, I had lunch with the director, the chief of defense intelligence, previously called CMI, chief of military intelligence, Birunji. And I can't remember how we came to talk about Besigye. He said, but Andrew Besigye is up to insurrection. And I said, that cannot be true. You guys are living in 2005. He said, very soon I'm going to prove to you. Then one day I was in Ghana, in the rural areas of Ghana, campaigning for President Mahama, who luckily won. Andrew, of course, problems on this continent. Now you're in Ghana. You've entered Ghana also. Yes. You're causing problems here. You've entered Congo, Kigali, now you're in Ghana. I was campaigning for the opposition candidate who won. So I received these audios from the chief of military intelligence. I listened to them. The first thing I did, I always think things like that are deep fake. So I get them, I send them actually 3 friends. 2 are at Apple, 1 is at Microsoft. That's for me 2 things I asked them. Are they edited? Because they can pick messages, voices from different places and create a coherent conversation. 2, from different times and occasions. 2, check for me, are they AI generated? Both of them returned to me a verdict. They are neither edited nor AI generated. These are authentic. I sent them to a highly technical person here at ISO. He sent me same reply. Finally, I have had discussions with Western embassies here who have the most advanced technology. You can ask them. When they received those audios, they sent them home, checked them, and they discovered their authenticity. That's why Western embassies in Kampala have been silent to come and try to defend Besigye. So I am now convinced that the audios of Besigye planning mass insurrection, a violent overthrow of the government, and murder of Museveni in cold blood is authentic. I'm so convinced about it.
So here is what you do with that authentic evidence. You take it to court and make your case.
And
that is what you do.
Andrew, just giving an opinion. This is in court.
Absolutely. So,
but Andrew, for me,
this is in court.
No, before let me just say this to you. I was saying that we could be the four of us have interacted with you. We know that you're speaking your mind. You're someone who thinks freely and is independent minded. But I was
even at the price of losing my life.
Absolutely, I don't know about that. I'm here to put you to a cowardice test, but that will come later. I am just saying that there are so many. I haven't done an official referendum, but Andrew, if you ask randomly on the streets, go to the, us we're street boys, go to the border stage and ask, do you believe what Andrew Mwenda was saying? There are two aspects. They said, you are Museveni. Response number one. Response number two, they said, you see, the Andrews are the people who are crafting the next government. Your good friend has already given us a date for hanging Kano Besigye. It doesn't help the case. You announce a hanging date, and then you want him tried in a court where you are in charge. You announce a verdict and then go for a trial.
But I would like to understand
that doesn't help.
Opinion on those.
That doesn't help. So point number two. Point number two. No, because it doesn't help. It doesn't help the case.
Actually, the point that I was making is beyond the legal and into the political. And if the crux of the case then is that if KB was plotting to kill Museveni, therefore Museveni is justified. If you enter into the intractable nature of their conflict, KB from about 2001, treason and rape, both combined, would have carried life imprisonment. There's no way KB would have come out of prison if he had been convicted on those charges. You look at the way he was arrested by Gilbert Bwana. Gilbert Bwana was never charged, was never withheld. That person would have killed KB. I feel the intractable nature of this conflict, because it's gone on for so long, it pushed Besigye into the unimaginable. That Ugandans are willing, some Ugandans in any case who support him, are willing to even forgive. And I was saying in a group, even if you caught Besigye in State House with a knife on Besigye's neck, on Museveni's neck,
would defend
there would be people who say, I can understand this man. And I think that's where the problem of that case is, that so many people have seen what happened to Besigye that they're willing to rationalize, even when they know that, there's a trust deficit in government, even when these audios might be very authentic. There's that natural trust deficit that came from the Chakwa case, but there's also the just natural inclination. We've seen this man getting beaten on TV, arrested, detained, come out, go in, arrested, detained, get beaten again. A man like that, if he one day says, you know what, let me fight back, there'll be very little to hold back. And which is why there are many people who are on the fringes who are saying, okay, we didn't expect KB to go this route, but if he has gone this route,
amen.
Then
okay, we have to take another break. I'll be right back. Welcome back to this edition of the Hot Seat, featuring a panel of the most experienced journalists and pundits to discuss the major event of the week, and which is Besigye's transfer from the court martial to the High Court. So I have Isaac Kakayonde, I have Raymond Bujuni, I have Frank Majimba, and I have...
I wanted to complete my point.
Who was speaking when we went to the
I was speaking.
Hey.
I think we were co-speaking.
My incomplete point is something about the nature of politics from people that have come from the 80s, and I pray that they listen. This idea that you must visit the worst consequences on someone to be seen to be a victor is a very dangerous idea. And I see it a lot with people from that age group. There are so many moderates who have had a chance, Amanya Mushega, Elia Kategaya, Mchamontu, people who've disagreed with Museveni, who are moderates, who've tried to find a path where can some level of cooptation where the state survives but the government goes be achieved. And that it's been difficult to achieve, simply because people have this radical idea that, I must visit the worst harm against someone. Now we've entered a phase where Museveni has been working so hard to visit the worst time on Besigye, and now Besigye is working harder to visit the worst time on Museveni. And we, the Ugandans, for whom the rest of our life is ahead of us, are caught in this intractable conflict. You don't know how many people are calling and saying, if this man dies in prison, do your children have passports? This is what people are now scared about. What might come out of these two fighting each other.
Okay.
Well, for me, I think the debate we're having here is...
I think for Besigye to go on hunger strike, I think he was trying to blackmail the state.
Absolutely.
And he's lucky that I'm not in charge of the state. Me, I cannot be blackmailed, I should tell you.
But
it's a very valid...
You draw the line?
No. That's where the problem is. That the Supreme Court has made a decision. Seize all trials before the court-martial. Transfer the files. Even the detention warrant that came from the court-martial expires. You don't have any warrant. You're keeping me in prison. You can't blame me for going on a hunger strike.
No, I think for me,
what they did today, they should have done a long time ago. Go to Nakawa Chief Magistrate Court, charge the guy with whatever you want, get a detention warrant, take him to Besigye. But holding him without a warrant after he has been freed technically by court, I think that's where again...
God had not technically freed him.
Yes.
I agree with the first part of the argument. To release him, it would have needed also a court order.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
Legally, it required a court order. Trust me.
A release order.
To the Commissioner General of Prison, say release that person.
No.
Because
let me give you the scenario. Court-martial remanded him up to 7th January. So the detention warrant that Dr. Johnson Besigye had was up to 7th January. At that point, he was supposed to return to court for further direction.
But
the court-martial doesn't sit.
Sabiti, to be honest,
no.
Those are legalese.
No, not legalese. These are facts.
The fundamental of it was that the Supreme Court did not release.
Isaac,
them to the
under the law, to deny someone their liberty.
Another thing.
To deny someone their liberty, it can only happen through an order of court.
You see, okay, what I'm saying here is to say,
listen, the decision was simple. All the active trials before the court-martial are illegal. Seize.
Was he tried again in court-martial?
Transfer the files to
the High Court.
The High Court. We agree on that part.
Yes.
At the point of that order, the legal instrument that was detaining Kano Besigye was a remand from the General Court-Martial, which also expired on the 7th. So, and that's, I think, the question that was asked in Parliament, that what is the legal basis for his detention?
So let me tell you, I think that what you are discussing is a lacuna in the law that could only have been resolved by the courts.
Yes.
To say, when that warrant expires. Which was of the court-martial, and it's now, but the Supreme Court is saying the charges stand, but they should be done in the High Court. What follows?
So
that would be a matter of
here's the consequence. By the time the Supreme Court says those proceedings are an illegality,
it never said so.
No, that's why it stopped it.
For me, the point is, his government.
His trial.
No. First, let me make this case. His trial before the court-martial was unconstitutional. Yes. Do we agree on that?
Yes. But something that is unconstitutional is not necessarily illegal.
No, it is illegal. It's semantics.
No. It's
unconstitutional and illegal are semantics.
That's the same thing. You're saying there's a grey area there. If there was anything, the Attorney General should have written to the Supreme Court and said, please guide on these
Here's the point. The process through which a trial is conducted in a civilian court is different.
Yes, but you can also let me tell you.
So what were they transferring? What were they transferring to the civilian court? Because for a case to appear before the ordinary courts, there must be a process of an investigation. There must be an officer preferring charges. There must be a perusal and sanctioning by the Director of Public Prosecutions, who then takes the case. So which case were they transferring?
Again, we have committed a mistake which I had gone to correct on TV yesterday. I think that Besigye, I don't want us to get bogged down in these minute legal technicalities, which can only be resolved by courts of law, no opinion, whatever. What they want us to discuss are the substantive issues.
But that is a matter of court for determination.
That's what I'm saying.
We are not lawyers.
No.
Why are you discussing evidence if you are not a lawyer? Why are you discussing evidence?
What I'm saying is the final determination of the disagreement between me and you
will be in court. That's true.
Yes,
but also the final determination of whether or not that evidence is legit, the evidence that you so much believe in, the final decision on whether or not they are legit is for the court. It's not for Andrew Mwenda, not for me.
He has qualified his
I have told you.
That we're on the same page.
I am less interested in the legal technicalities because there's a substantive issue. Can Besigye, this is a moral and political issue I'm raising to him. Can Besigye come out openly? And I want to see what his lawyers say. He says, this is not my voice. I beg you, Lukwago, and whatever other lawyers, you go to court and say that's not Besigye's voice. It is forged. For then is why I see Besigye's cowardice as a politician. If Besigye,
why are you boxing him into a corner?
Let me explain to you. Because first of all, I know that those voices are authentic. So since I know that they're authentic and I'm convinced about it, if I were Besigye, I would have stood like Nelson Mandela. I would have stood like Fidel Castro or Adolf Hitler. When they were caught trying to overthrow government, I would state that I, Kizza Besigye, I believe that Museveni is a tyrannical dictator who is mismanaging Uganda and destroying it, and he has made it impossible for Ugandans through the democratic process to remove him. I have resolved that you're going to use violent means to overthrow him, exactly the means he used. Now he has got, that violent process includes him being killed. Therefore, I am willing to die for that belief, and I stand in court by it. And let me quote Nelson Mandela. When he was charged with the Rivonia sabotage, they had blown up power stations, bombed places. He said, I do not deny that I planned sabotage. I did not plan it in a spirit of recklessness, nor because I had any love of violence. I planned it after sober and calm assessment of the political situation that had arisen after many years of tyranny, exploitation, and oppression of my people by the whites. The struggle is my life, and I cannot be separated from the struggle. I'll continue to struggle for the freedom of the press until the end of my days. Throughout my lifetime, I have believed in a free and democratic South Africa in which all people live in harmony. It is an ideal for which I'm prepared to live for, fight for, and achieve. And if needs be, it is an ideal for which I am prepared to die. Let Besigye stand and be counted. This idea of him sometimes beginning a civil war, denying it, plotting assassination, hiding behind local technicalities, I find it absolute cowardice.
Well, thanks for your advice. I'm not too sure Besigye will take it.
Thank you for your monologue.
Well, I don't think Besigye, in his wisdom, will take it because it affects his base. It will affect so many people. Because, you see, there are people who want change in this country, but they don't want it at all costs. People like Mukisha Muntu and everybody.
He says that Bobby Wine doesn't want it at all costs. In those audios, I can play them now. Besigye does criticize Bobby Wine. He says Bobby Wine is not willing to go the long distance we're going to go. If you say that in a private meeting, come in public. Let me tell you, if it was me, Andrew Mwenda, I would stand by it and die by it.
We agree, but yes.
I just said earlier that we are going to subject you to a cowardice test very soon.
But not sure Andrew, for me, where I want to place you is, look, we are not. Some of us know two things. We are looking at the court of law, and we are looking at the court of public opinion
and politics.
You are losing in the court of public opinion. And the courts of law are yet.
You who is losing.
Andrew,
you said
Andrew
you.
Your narrative.
The narrative.
Who is that?
The narrative that you see. The audios are real. Besigye is guilty and everything. The public opinion is not with you. You know. So for me, I think going back to this,
just gag the guy. Get a gag
going back to this discussion, we await what is going to be presented in court. Whether he is able to prove whether government is able to prove his guilt. They have failed before. We hope that they will put up a better show this time round, right? But for
the government of Museveni cannot be accused of possessing much creative imagination, nor of being competent at anything.
So whatever
gives you,
that's the problem.
Whatever gives you the conviction that
when the government of President Museveni needs to come out and win over the public war, Andrew is messing the war. That's why I'm saying get a gag order and keep and let him
keep quiet. For me, the point though I would rather make is, and this is to maybe Besigye and people who are really close to him. And maybe that the idea should not take root. A violent upheaval of power very rarely produces the results that you want it to approve.
Especially in our
Rwanda,
context.
it produced a genocide. In the DRC, it produced a war of 10 African countries. If indeed he was planning what he was planning in the audios, the idea.
Yes, but I said it so many times.
So that's the thing I'm saying, that if he's reached that point of strategizing where the strategy is let us take out Museveni and then deal with what is left, the embers of Uganda are held together by very many different factions. You do not know which ones will be against you. There are many radicals who I've spoken to who say, I could also assassinate Besigye. And now, if we move our politics away from this rabid disagreement we've been having, which we've been trying to solve, and enter the realm of assassinations, that's even more dangerous, because we know the people who have the control and monopoly of violence. That's Museveni's realm, actually.
Yeah.
That's
Museveni is a specialist in violence.
He doesn't assassinate political opponents, but his ability
He
to
doesn't
visit
do what?
Violence.
He
That's
doesn't.
He does not assassinate political opponents.
I don't think that he orders assassinations.
Give me one. Maybe, but I mean, the evidence is that he doesn't. I mean, look at all his political opponents.
What evidence?
The evidence of Samuel Gerere, Kizza Besigye, all the rest. You get? There's not been a single death of a leading opposition figure. That was then, and the context then is Kaira was a minister, for goodness sake. You cannot. Really? Are you?
We are taking another break. We'll be right back.
Again.
Interest rates.
Welcome back to this last segment of the Hot Seat, featuring this great panel of experienced journalists and panelists: Raymond Mujuni, Isaac Kayonde. I have Frank Mujimba and Sabiti. I'm coming to and Sabiti, Joseph Sabiti. So, guys, we need to conclude on this. You know, I did my monologue. I honestly think that if Besigye believes, as he has argued consistently, that this country is ripe for violent rebellion, I disagree with him, but he should be courageous enough to stand by it. I want to hear you, Joseph. You stand by your beliefs.
There are two things. I think that Dr. Besigye, at the earliest opportunity, needs to address court and respond to some of the issues you're talking about. I think very many people...
If he denies, I will be very disappointed.
No, Andrew. What he says is up to him. But it's important that he addresses court and says whatever he wants. I think very many people are itching to listen to Colonel Besigye. But number two, all this drama is not going to be solved by the courts of law. It is a fundamental disagreement in our politics, but we are crossing now into dangerous terrains: assassinations, hanging. And for me, I think I agree with Raymond that these 80s bad manners that they want to export into our future should be resisted. Earlier today, I made a case for Natif when he talked about the safe corridor concept. People abused his mother, his father, his clan, and everybody. But every day that passes by, you get to see that as a country, we need to talk to each other. And that narrow, safe corridor might actually be our way out.
Mujimba, don't you think that center has been politically obliterated because its representatives, people who are sober, calm, and reflective, do not appeal to the Ugandan voter? In fact, Uganda needs to think about it, because each time a person has tried to adopt a moderate position, which would appeal to a center. Remember that if Museveni has 30%, Besigye or Bobi Wine has 25%, that's just 55%. Now, there is 45% out there. Either they don't show up to vote. Last election, there were 57% who showed up to vote, so 43% did not. And even among Museveni's voters and some of Bobi Wine's voters, they are moderates. So you may find that the moderate center occupies has 65 to 70% of the population. But I think they have failed to generate sufficient momentum to bring politics to the center. So the two extremes keep pulling apart every day, and the extremes on both sides are the ones who mobilize. They insult, they yell, they shout, and therefore moderate voices cannot find traction in this very heated political environment.
Yeah, first of all, Andrew, I would like to comment about, first of all, the process. So many times, Besigye has won cases in courts. This time, for the first time, personally, I'm convinced that actually Dr. Kizza Besigye could be, let me use that word, could be actually guilty of what they are accusing him. Now, the question is government this time around willing to reveal its sources if it has failed to reveal them in the previous cases? If it doesn't, then what actually does this show? Maybe in future, if some other person, or actually the exact person, Besigye, does the same thing. So the question is, if they do not, if they're not willing to give out the sources to produce this evidence that is going to actually show that this man is actually guilty. So what happens after that? shall we be able to defend government? For example, if it's you, Andrew Mwenda, and the next time Besigye has committed maybe some other crime, or he's being accused of committing a crime, will you come and say the words that you said, you as Andrew Mwenda? Can you be able to do that if government does not secure a conviction this time round with evidence that you are talking about, if they do not produce that in court? So for me, I really find that challenging. Then secondly, let's say that maybe Besigye is convicted. What happens? Is he going for maybe life imprisonment? Is he going to be hanged like what we see on Twitter? What happens after that? So where is Uganda left? Because like some of these people were saying, even if it is true that Besigye was caught going to actually cut the neck of President Museveni, so many people will not believe it. The public will actually not believe it. So even if court convicted Besigye,
I do not know about this issue of the public. The public is not univocal. Unless and until somebody does a national opinion poll, I am not so sure, because there is a large section of Ugandans actually who believe government, and there is a large section of Ugandans
that is
who no longer believe in the government. I don't know, unless a poll, a scientific poll is done or a referendum is held, I'm disinclined to believe that
but we can use your numbers. You've just given us
even
numbers.
the referendum will be questioned.
57% came to the polls. Don't you believe that people who do not come to the polls are people, the voter apathy of
I think you can't
6 million?
impute. You can't
impute.
For example, for example, Raymond and I have not voted in the last 2 elections because we are busy running after presidential candidates.
No, I'm saying, look, this is a significant 6 million.
Andrew is with M23, that's why he doesn't vote. So it can't say.
6 million people who don't come to the polls. I can guarantee you 80% of them are opposition leaning because they feel their vote doesn't count. Now, if you put that number,
but it is also possible.
Or maybe they have no candidates.
I believe that President Museveni is the most electable person right now in the country, but he's not the most popular. You know.
Let me put this
based on the numbers.
It is possible that many Museveni supporters also don't show up to vote because they are convinced their candidate is going to win anyway. So they're complacent. But what I can say, we don't know.
Yeah, okay.
From a sentiment, we don't know. What we need to do is to poll the people who don't show up to vote and say how many of those don't vote because they hate Museveni but believe he cannot be removed through an election.
Yeah.
Those love Museveni but they are comfortable and complacent that their guy will win. And those who are not interested in politics. By the way, I have so many friends who wonder why anybody is interested in politics. They're interested in their bars, they're interested in the Premier League, the Spanish League, they're interested in so many other things. You would be surprised that a large section of Ugandans don't care what happens in politics. So to that degree, we can say with certainty that we don't know, we are not sure, until an opinion poll is done.
The only thing that we can be sure of is that the country is too polarized to the extremes that, like I've said here before, bringing Muntu into this race is like bringing a cat to a dog fight. That people do not want to, it's either change or let's keep the same. You know, and that sentiment.
But that polarization, you may find that the people at these extremes are a minority, but a very noisy and active one. And the vast majority of Ugandans, because either they're indifferent, they're not as enthusiastic and things like that, they may constitute 70% of the population. But once you're not organized, once you're not mobilized, once you're not motivated and enthusiastic, it is always a minority that rules. Don't think that the majority ever rules. Yeah. Because a minority that is willing to organize itself effectively and make a lot of noise can impose its will on a society, even if the society doesn't agree with them. I do not think at the time Museveni took over power, he commanded any significant majority in Uganda. If an election was held in 1986, I don't even think he would get 30%. UPC would win.
I mean, he had failed in 1980.
Exactly. Yes. UPC would still have won. So, but he was better organized militarily to capture power. The point I'm trying to make is this, that for me, I think that the Museveni government is, for many reasons, one of them, it has an acute credibility deficit among educated elite sections of Ugandan society. If you talk to many educated elites in Uganda, they don't identify with it.
Yes.
But the mistake the opposition makes is to think that because many Ugandans are tired of Museveni, that means they support the opposition. Because The fact that me and my girlfriend or my wife have divorced does not mean that she's going to date you. It's not automatic. You will also need to.
That there I agree with you. That's why
you will need to win her over.
I found it
The divorce part or the
we need to test the theory.
No. I found it silly that people would disagree with Andrew instead of going to social media platforms and reasoning out with him. They think that by abusing him and everything, they will box him to their side. So also this BS of thinking that if I don't like President Museveni, then automatically I must like you. I must like you. Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
I disagree with Museveni in many fundamental ways, even though I have sympathies with him in many areas, because what I respect about him, and I said it yesterday, there is no Ugandan who criticizes Museveni more than I do. You can go to AI, ChatGPT, DeepSeek, wherever it is, you'll find I am the most.
I think one Ugandan beats you, Dr. Besigye.
Okay, maybe,
Yeah.
but I'll be among the top 10.
Yes.
In spite of that, Museveni, I will go to State House and have coffee with him and talk to him, even go to a restaurant and sleep in his house. And I find that powerful about him as a person. These Ugandans...
Again, Andrew, you're privileged.
How?
Other than just going to see President Museveni, you have connections with insider members of the family. You can go and sleep at your friend's house. If they want to kidnap you, your friend can make a phone call and stop the kidnapping. You're not an everyday citizen. You're not like me from Zombo. The highest ranking person in the military I know is probably a private and stuff like that. So you're not you're not a good sample for Ugandan.
Yes, no, Museveni has proved again and again he's willing to work with people who disagree with him. He was working with Mao, he has worked with the Obote family, he has worked with his children, he has worked with the practical Konyi people, he has brought them into the EPDF. I find that Museveni is a person with a large heart, a broad mind, and then he has amplitude of comprehension. He's not a person who is like this guy. His critics, well, I tell you, I would vote Museveni 500 times over his critics, even when I have serious disagreements with him. But unfortunately, guys, we have only 1 minute to go. So you are giving the last one.
I just want to say this structural violence in our politics really must go. It must end.
How? By moral exhortations?
Not moral exhortations, actually. I firmly believe that there is a third force, a number of Ugandans who are indifferent to the nature of violence, who are indifferent to the idea that only violence can produce outcomes. They just need to start to mobilize openly. People keep imputing motives, and people who say, for example, I don't want violence, are said to be members of the NRM.
Okay.
So that needs to be done away with.
We have run out of time. My final advice to the supporters, please stand by your political beliefs and political aims, including the means you want to use to achieve those political aims.
Please, DPP, gag Andrew.